Weeks. Thank you very much for joining me here. Just want to have you elaborate a little more the letter that was sent to the Bermuda Football Association. We had up on Tuesday morning, and others got it up later in the day or yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
It's in the public. It's in the public now.
Yep, I got our media relations guy to release it out so that everyone could read it,
right.
because you guys had quoted it on your website,
Right.
and that started people asking questions.
Yeah.
This letter resulted from a conversation myself and Mr. David Sabir had at the BFA. And let me be very clear, myself and the BFA have been working very closely together on this. This is not the BFA against the police or the police against the BFA. We have been working together on this. And this is not the first conversation we've had on this. In fact, Mr. Sabir reminded me that we had had a similar conversation when I first became the superintendent of Community Policing Division a few years ago, when I set a process in place where we were going to have a stoplight system for the clubs and the people that they put on the team. So it's not a new conversation, but I was starting to worry that some people who were playing on some of the teams were having issues travelling from game to game, and we had calls for the police to provide escorts. And the Commissioner's response was very clear, that we wouldn't provide escorts so that gang members could be facilitated in their wish to do what they wanted. If you want to be in a gang, that's fine. Well, it's not fine, of course, but if you want to be in a gang, there's got to be a consequence to this, and it may be that you don't get to play football. Well, now it's going to be, for the starting point, is you don't get to play football at Police Field. And we're being asked a lot of questions. I'm being asked a lot of questions. I'm getting a lot of support from the teams that I've spoken to, and I'm gradually working my way through to speak to all the teams. And one thing I would like to correct that's been mentioned in the press is that I sent specific letters to two clubs, Boulevard and the Paget Lions. That is not true. I have not singled out any clubs, because this letter was not about individual clubs. It was about individual people who are playing for certain clubs, and it's about all sports, all teams that play at Police Field. This is about Police Field. It's not about Boulevard or Paget Lions, who both, I must say, have been working very closely with me on this and have been very cooperative on this. So I want to make sure that nobody thinks that I was picking on those two clubs, because that was never my intention. So following the conversation with Mr. Sabir, I wrote a letter basically putting them on notice at the BFA that the police club would not be home to these people that we have identified as being involved in antisocial behaviour and gang behaviour. And the question I'm asked, and Mr. Sabir asked me, well, can you provide us a list of people who are involved in gangs? And I said, well, no, that's not the point. The police is not going to produce a list that someone can tack up on the wall and say the Bermuda Police Service doesn't want these people, because that's not the point. What we want is a safe family environment at our police club. And what we're not getting is that safe environment when there are gang members and people associated with that lifestyle coming to police club and other people coming to look for them. And that obviously is our concern. And there's a liability issue here. If a gang member is playing football at a club and some other gang member rides up on a bike like they did down at Victor Scott in that very nasty incident a few years ago during the kite flying, and shoots someone and someone else gets hurt, there is a huge liability issue for the club. Well, that's not going to happen at Police Club, because there's not going to be any gang members there, so that no one's coming looking for them. We're very clear on that we won't have a liability issue here, because we are saying if you're involved in this, you're not welcome at Police Club. And I have a letter that I've written to individual people, and I'll be sending that out to the individual people once the Attorney General's office has had a chance to look at it and tell me that they're happy with it. And basically that letter sets out what we're trying to do here. It explains that we're trying to get this family-friendly environment back, and it sets out 3 criteria for how we would decide whether someone can come or not. And they're very clear criteria. There's people saying, oh, well, you can't tell if people are in gangs. Well, I think you can. And these are the 3 criteria that we're looking to use. If you have been recently convicted of offences of violence, you're not coming to Police Club. If you are on bail currently for serious offences, and you're wearing an ankle bracelet in some cases, but not You might not be wearing an ankle bracelet. If you're on bail for serious offences, until you're not on bail for serious offences, i.e. you get released from bail or you get found not guilty at court, because if you get found guilty at court, then obviously you go into the first category. But if you get found not guilty, then of course you're welcome back again. And the third category is if your social media presence makes it very clear to anyone who looks at it that you're involved in the gang lifestyle, i.e. you got MOB for life written it, or you're seen actively pointing pretend guns and fingers at a camera on some of these videos that are on YouTube, and this stuff is out there in the public domain. This is not secret. Every club must have at least one young man or young person on their team who can go in and give the club president a little picture of what each person's social media looks like, because it's out there, this information. And the younger kids who are looking up to them, they've seen all this stuff on social media. But I suspect that old guys like me and some of the club hierarchy is probably going to be like me. They're not going to have those skills, and they may be very shocked when they see some of the stuff that their players are posting up on Facebook or on Twitter or on YouTube or some of the other younger trending applications on a phone that I wouldn't use, but they use, and the kids know about this stuff. And I think some of the older people, if they saw some of this stuff, they'd be very shocked. But that's what I'm asking the clubs to do. Look at your players. Have they just been in court? Are they on bail for robbery? Do they have social media that clearly indicates that they're actively involved in antisocial behaviour, drugs and violence? Because it won't be too difficult for them to work out. You don't need to be a detective to work this stuff out. And that's the criteria we're using. It's not, are they a member of a gang? Because that's neither here nor there. It's about what they are saying to the younger people coming up. And we're very clear that we don't want the kids exposed to this. We don't want the kids exposed to this at our club. So we're suggesting that other clubs might want to take a leaf out of our book. But it's going to start at our house. It's going to start at Police Club. And that's what we started doing 2 weekends ago, and we're going to continue going on. I also got a lot of complaints from members of the club that they couldn't come into the areas of the field during the games because there was too much marijuana smoke drifting up into the tennis courts. Clearly, that's just disrespectful. You come onto Police Field, and that's what you do. We can't have that, and we're going to deal with that. That's the laws currently don't allow for that. We're not going to allow for that. So I was very upset to hear that was in fact the case.
What assistance can the Bermuda Police Service offer other clubs who want to take that same stand?
Well, like I said, I am going to be, once I get approval from the Attorney Generals, I'm going to be writing to all the people across the BFA and other sports that play at Police Field where we've identified people who fall into those three categories. And I'm going to copy in the clubs. So if they play for Dandy Town or they play for Boulevard or Warwick or whoever, Somerset, they'll get a letter too. So they'll get a copy of that letter telling them what I've said to their player. So they will know who it is. But I think in the meantime, as I said, you don't need to be a detective to work this stuff out. They need to look closely at the people that they are currently fielding and have that conversation with them. Because there may be some people who are just on the edge of it, whose social media is the problem, who will go, oh, well, I can fix that. Because it's fixable. And the long-term view for me here, we don't want to ban anyone from Police Field. What we want is to make sure that people understand the consequences of what they're doing. And if you want to play football at Police Field or anything else at Police Club, then fix it. Stop doing that and you can come back. Because we hope that everyone will, it won't always work. Not everyone will be interested in changing their ways, but there are plenty of young people involved in football who are just on the edge of this stuff, or were involved but aren't anymore. And one of the things it's going to say in the letter is, if you think that you have been wrongly identified as being part of this, write to me. Write back to me and explain. If you are in a position where you are saying, no, I'm finished with that, I'm playing football and I'm not involved in the game, write to me and tell me that, and we can have that discussion. I am open to that discussion with any of the people that I'm going to be sending the letters to. And in nearly every case, it's like 1 or 2 per club. So it's not a whole pile of people. Some people are making out like I'm telling the whole team that they're involved, but it's not that. It's usually one or two people. And I think if everyone was to be honest with themselves, that most of the clubs know who those people are likely to be and know who's going to get a letter. I don't think there's going to be any surprises.
Given the fact that if someone is on bail and wearing an ankle bracelet for a serious offense, what is it immediately revoked if the person is released?
Yeah, if they're released from bail or they're found not guilty, then that number 2 on the list of 3 criteria, then that's done.
Right.
Then I'm good with them coming back, as long as of course the other 2 aren't in play.
Right.
You know. And often or not, with most of these people, all 3 apply. But you know, if you've been wrongly accused, it's innocent until proven guilty here.
Right.
So that applies in this case as well. You know, you've been picked up for robbery, and it turns out it wasn't you. Well, you're not banned for life.
Right.
You just got to let me know that that's the case. I mean, I'll find that out, and I'll be able to give that directive.
Just for that period in which you're on.
Yeah,
facing
whilst
those
you're on
charges.
bail.
Okay.
Yeah, like we don't expect you to be involved in this whilst you're on bail and while you're wearing an ankle bracelet for robbery or serious drug offences.
Right.
No more than if one of my police officers was accused of something, I would expect them to be at work.
Right.
Because you're representing, and all the time that cloud is over you. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. You've got to take a step back and then come back again.
Well, thank you very much. I wanted to get a chance for you to elaborate a little more on the letter, because people look at letters and form opinions, and obviously there's so many different views on it.
Absolutely.
Out there, and a chance for you to
clear up a couple of things.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want people to know that this wasn't. I just didn't sit down and write a letter to the BFA. I spoke to David Sabir at length. We had a long discussion of how we could make this work before the formal letter went out. So, this is a collaborative effort, and we're looking to try to get that family feeling back to football.